future in that regard is bright. But let's go to what happens to the human beings whose jobs have been taken away. The father who one day is laid off and doesn't have money to pay for his daughter's tuition fee, doesn't have enough money to pay for rent or to live in the city, and he has to withdraw and go to the mountains to live, or go back to the village and leave the city. What happens to these human beings that have been displaced? Will they go into violence? Will they retaliate on their government, on their workplaces, on the management at work? What would be the next move? What can they do? How can they survive? Where do they go? Many years ago, writers thought that the future will be filled with flying cars. They were speculating in the future we would see cars flying around, and from street to street with tall buildings and stuff. But right now, there are no such cars per se. What we have are helicopters and drones and stuff. If we have such air traffic, there'll be a lot of collision. But let's say we properly mapped out every air route and airway, and every passenger taxi flying car had its own path and knew to control itself. A collision at a couple of hundreds of feet above the ground will be fatal. So maybe it's for the better that we do not have such flying cars around. But looking at the near future, with AI coming up and improving, what is the next step after that, and how do we prepare if you're looking at such? AI could be taking some people's jobs, but the one way to look at it is that it's more like it's taking away the easy jobs at the moment, just until the AI gets so much better than professionals. That looking at the jobs of the experts, writers, if you look at what AI has written, what AI has been writing, sometimes you can actually spot that this is written by AI, and you could see the difference. An email sent to you by a coworker who used AI, it may start with, "I hope this email finds you well." Before that, many people may have been using that, but it's become a sign of it was written by AI. There are some things that AI can do, and there are some things that it's not been developed to do yet. The way I look at it is that AI is an intelligence. If you give it peripherals, if you give it arms and legs, it may be able to do kind of the things that a human being can do. If you give it arms, it can be a robotic arm, an intelligent robotic arm. If you give it a way to sense things, to touch, if you give it a way to see, it can observe and know what it's about to touch before it touches it. You could simulate the vision with sensors, maybe some kind of radar, LiDAR. You could analyze and know what's in front of it, and even see what's beyond walls, kind of. So the future of AI, the way I look at it, is that it's going to go beyond it just being a thing in our computer and responding to customer service chats, but it actually going into the environment. We've seen companies like Tesla and a number of other companies, some in China, developing some humanoid robots. The robot doesn't essentially have to be humanoid for it to do things in the physical world. We've had robotic arms, but such were deterministic. They were trained to move in a certain pattern. Even those kind of arms and pre-programmed movements are used in the movie industries to move cameras in a certain direction, especially for high motion, high speed shots. So we've been progressively improving AI, and beyond this improvement, I think there is a world where we can actually cut down the time it takes to produce some things. And in my mind, I think it's a good thing. If you can produce more food, more potatoes, more oranges, more apples, if you can plant an entire desert with trees and maybe wait for 2 years or 1 year for it to become green and turn it into a place to harvest, to plant and do stuff. If you could build a house, if you could expand shelter, if you could make things happen at a higher speed and at a higher scale, you can slow down world hunger. Well, you can feed a lot of people, because If you automate it, the cost of labor comes down drastically, and a lot of people can get the benefit of that. Unless someone stands up and tries to monopolize and say that he's going to artificially increase the price of goods. But if the thing is mass produced, maybe at the same quality or maybe slightly lesser, it could be slightly more, slightly better quality of food, we can feed more people. It might be a good progress for the betterment of humanity. If you consider parts of the world where there is a lot of poverty, maybe the people have no jobs, or they have jobs but the pay is really little. Maybe the tax is really much. The school fees are high and the parents do not have enough money to pay for their children's school fees. Transport cost is high, the cost of a new house is high, the cost of a new car is high, the cost of living is just high. How can things be done properly? How can things be fixed? If you consider the layoffs that have been happening in certain companies, that where the workers' jobs were replaced by AI, or the worker was asked to asked to perform a set of activities, and his activities are monitored and then used to train an AI. Maybe he's a programmer and his screen movements are recorded, the way he thinks to program is recorded, his browser tabs are recorded, his IDE is recorded. And then his way of working is then used to train an AI model. Could that be a bad thing in the long term? In the short term, the guy has no job. Maybe he's laid off without much compensation. He's just replaced. He's taken out of his job, and something faster and maybe not as smart as him in the short term, but over time with enough training, that AI may be as smart as or even better than the original worker. That may feel really bad for the person in the short term, but what can be done in such case? What do workers do? Where is the world heading? What are we supposed to do in this kind of situation where a job is taken away? Could it be that when one job is taken away, another can be created? Maybe not in the same field, but because it seems like in the aspect of computation, in the field of computer science, many people's jobs are progressively being removed. The way I see it is that when you do a thing long enough, you kind of find ways to automate it. Even if you do not automate it, it becomes easier because you've been doing it. If you look at footballers, it feels a lot more natural than the first day they ever started playing football. If you've been cooking, it will feel a lot more automatic, like a muscle memory. An extension, and even beyond muscle memory, is the automation of things. Bringing in metal, bringing in silicon chips, bringing in a computer to automate what the human being has already been doing. If you observe master chefs, they're able to cut onion really quickly. And such can be simulated by a robot. If you observe it, maybe ask the chef to wear some gloves that will track his hand movement and see how he holds the knife and how he shifts his fingers along the onion to chop it into pieces. The transfer of skill from the expert human into robots can make the expert replicated in many places. Maybe the expert trained for 10 years to get that skill. You could duplicate his effort in 10 robots that can do 10 times or 100 times what he can do. That is essentially what happens in factories. In large-scale production, you're not really depending on, especially large-scale production that uses robotics, automations. They are not entirely depending on human beings to go every step of the way. It may not entirely be a bad thing for our jobs to be automated. If we can make life easier for many people, if we can open more opportunities. The opportunities do not always have to lie in our current job. The chef whose job was automated away, maybe he was working in a restaurant and he's replaced by some kind of humanoid robot that cooks in place of him. What does the chef do now? In the meantime, he may need to learn a new skill. But what do you say to a man who has been doing that all his life and that's all he knows? There's a podcast I was listening to, and it said that, or was it a podcast or a reel, a short form video? It mentioned how people were using shovels to dig up dirt, and then the bulldozer came in and was invented. So many things can be done much easier. And someone on the news was complaining, I think a reporter, oh, the machines are taking away the jobs of people. What would the workers do now? The counter argument was that, why don't we just get back and use forks to till, since it would require more people to do that, and we can employ more people to do that task. It might be a lot easier, for the sake of the greater good, to automate things that can be automated. The ones that are not easily scaled can be a premium. If you want a chef to cook right in front of you, or you want some workers to dig your yard without any machinery, it can be some kind of luxury. But as for things that should be scaled, to build houses, to feed an entire community, to plant and harvest an entire field, thousands of acres of land, it would need to be automated, especially when you're working in really tough situations, in really harsh environments. Reforestation, turning deserts into forest again, planting in such harsh environment where there are a lot of, there is, the environment is so harsh, and you may not find people that are very willing to work in such environment. Employing these robots can be a way forward. When I look into the future, I imagine humanoid robots working around, performing certain tasks. But on the other side, what happens to human beings who refuse to progress into the next level? The things we learn in school may drastically adjust. In my secondary school, many years ago, it was a commercial secondary school. We were taught how to use the typewriter. I was there for just about 1 year, and I transferred to a different school. Typewriters were obsolete, but they were still teaching how to use typewriters. But it could be nice to learn, but we are no longer needing to use typewriters. We are now using tablets, and we're using laptops, we're using desktops, and they are evolving. That things are becoming much better. Typing on paper with ink on a typewriter doesn't feel nice at all. Instead of cutting down trees to make paper, we are blowing up fields to make processors, silicon chips for our tablets. It looks like the targets change, the resources needed change, the kind of knowledge required changes. Some things become not very necessary. A podcast I was listening to said that if you traveled back in time and you observed people that were blacksmiths that were hammering iron and making horseshoes, and you say to them, in a couple of years, it would be, actually, if you tell them, oh, something will be invented that can actually make these horseshoes faster than you. And they could ask you, oh, what will we do now? What are we going to do now? How are we going to feed our families, etc.? They do not have the context to understand that horses would not be very relevant anymore because we have invented cars. The next thing now is petrol, crude oil that would be used to power these cars now. The population of horses may reduce. Horseshoes may not really be quite needed. Horses are now a thing of luxury, kind of, to have in your backyard and have a horse farm. And you could have them as pets and use them for horse races. But not so many people are using horses as a primary means of transportation right now. The the scheme of things have changed. If we look at people making handbags by hand and bags that were made with automation, I do not think every aspect of making handbags have completely been automated yet. Maybe it has in certain places, but in some factories, you still need someone to put in a pin or to adjust something somewhere in the entire pipeline of the process. But there are some bags that are still made from start to finish that are handmade from start to finish. I think as I look into the future, I'm kind of imagining processes where robots are used from the beginning to the end, not really requiring human beings in the middle. I think of Minecraft. Minecraft is a game, and people found a way to automate some loop in the system. I've not played Minecraft before, so if you play Minecraft and you know the terms, you may correct me. There are some animals, and there's a trap. You can either hunt the animal yourself or create a place that spawns the animal and it lands on the trap and it's destroyed. I think it was used on a zombie. The zombie is spawned and the zombie lands on the trap and it's destroyed, and you get some benefits for the destruction of the zombie. More like a game. It's a game. Can we automate cattle rearing? Can we automate our farming, the plant of maize, the plantation of oranges? Can we go to a farm, maybe fence it? We fence the farm, we deploy our humanoids, and they walk around our farms. They have the seeds. Maybe at the start of the process, we're giving them seeds, we're giving them a parameter to farm, we're giving them shelter, and we also put together some extra robots on the side that would service the robots that are working, so that the entire system doesn't grind to a halt because something was not oiled up or something was not serviced on time. So we have the repairers and we have the farmers. Both are humanoid robots, or whatever shape the robot will take to do the work effectively. Their job is to continue this farm indefinitely, maybe for the next 365 days. The job is to analyze the land and plant on it. As the land's nutrients may go down over time, maybe do not plant every year. Plant 1 year, maybe skip 1 year. Maybe plant 6 years and skip 1 year, so that we can have a system that is completely automated, and the job of the robots are to plant on the farm and harvest it and get it ready for human consumption. Every week or every month or every 2 months, deliver the produce to the doors of humans who have subscribed for our service of continuous food delivery. And it's very cheap because everything is automated. We are not having to pay these robots. Looking at it, would many humans be lazy now? Would people become so relaxed and have nothing else to do? Have we kind of worked so much that we have liberated ourselves from suffering, but there's still suffering? But are we headed towards the removal of suffering? At the back of my mind, I think not. There may still be suffering somewhere, somehow. But that aside, we have, let's say, automated planting things. How about automating cattle rearing? It might be inhumane to kill the animal. I know that there are some people that are vegetarian. There are some vegetarians that do not like the killing of animals. But for the sake of this video, just consider that animals can be killed and used for food. I'm not very vegetarian, but let's say we get into animal rearing. We start with 10 cattle. We lead them into the farm. We deploy some animals we deploy some robots who can monitor and have been loaded up with the knowledge of rearing cattle. We upload all the information that we've ever learned from cattle rearing. We know that this is what we should feed them. We know that we should get some hay. We import hay from the farm whose job is to plant hay. We get all those things done, we feed the animal. We continue to clean up the environment and move them from place to place along the big field so that the cattle can graze around. So it's more like there is no human in the loop, so the entire process functions smoothly. We're not really requiring, we're not really needing to do much, but the animal is doing, the robot is working on the animal. At the end of the day, meat bags are delivered to people's houses. That could be a step. So what happens to people who are working in meat houses and they have lost their jobs because things have been automated? We will get to that in a moment. I'm considering the automation of all of these processes. Things are becoming so much easier. Things are becoming, the labor costs is reducing. But who knows? Could it be that there is this equilibrium, or maybe there is this hard cut that prevents cost from being reduced to zero? Could it be that the resources you need to make chips and processing and electricity and power for the robots cannot get to zero, so that the cost of produce will also be zero? Because you need to service the robots, you need to power them, you need data centers, maybe you need machine learning, you need, can the robots become so skilled that they can replace a highly skilled expert? There are some intricate movements, like centimeters of movement, that the robot's dexterity may not reach the way its hands move. Maybe it's trying to get that feel. If you look at a system like blacksmiths making knives, you can automate the making of knives. And I think that is a quite easy to automate process. But if you look at heart surgery, maybe it's not that easy to automate. But if you get it right and it can be replicable, it can be automated. So could it be that things get easier, but the cost of maintaining it and running the robots also increase? Or could it decrease as things get progressively easier? I think I'll ask this one, which some programmers can observe. So some programmers among us viewers can maybe observe. Has the cost of token reduced over the time, or has it been increasing? The cost of the models that you're using. I know that as ChatGPT or Claude bring up new models, the cost for those tokens are increasing. Maybe it's increasing because it's higher than the previous model. How much are you paying for your AI usage over the API? Is it costing $1 for a million tokens? Will it get to $5 for a million tokens? Will it get to $10 for a million tokens? I'm looking at DeepSeek. I'm seeing that they are releasing models that are running on very few tokens for very few dollars for a million tokens. It's like, could it be that we would optimize matrix calculations and optimize processing so much that the AI can do so much with very little power? Then in that case, the price keeps plummeting, and we are finding better and better ways to do things, and we can bring the cost of production, where do they go? If I were handling a company like that, it seems there is not so much you could do, because some companies exist for profit. Some companies exist for profit. Some exist and are humane and really want people to be treated well. You're giving them a severance package. You are allowing them to you're giving them a huge amount of money to go and continue their lives. But that amount of money cannot do so much. It may finish in 3 months. It may finish in, actually not 3 months. It may finish in 1 month. So what can be done for these people that are displaced? If the change is too drastic, it would result in a lot of retaliation from these people that are displaced. There will be hatred in the hearts of people. I think that would be the cost of change. Easy for me to say. But We've seen what's going on, and we've observed the progress of AI. We may need to learn things that would be difficult to automate. Plumbing. When a humanoid who has been trained on the knowledge of plumbing is released into the field, into the industry, it may easily replace someone who is a plumber who learns plumbing. So that may take a couple of years to happen. Who knows? But it would take, AI will continue to take jobs and take jobs that are easy to automate. People are Googling financial advice, and they're using AI as their therapist. They're using AI as their lawyer, as their bookkeeper, etc. But in the real world, where maybe they because they are not experts in that field, and because the AI hallucinated, the AI gave them a wrong answer, they are now going to a real lawyer or a real bookkeeper to fix up what the AI missed. But as the AI gets progressively better, it will be able to pick up on its mistakes and catch itself when it makes a mistake. You're kind of bringing in that reasoning pattern of an expert into an AI. So what happens when human beings no longer have to fall back and run after a human being to correct the mistakes that an AI is making? If now I'm looking at when every single labor is replaced by machine labor, I think the end is play. Could be, could be. I know that when the minds of people become idle, people begin to think of vices, ways to entertain themselves, or ways to cause harm to other people, or ways to enjoy themselves. Because if you go for hiking 1,000 times, maybe it's nice. If you continue to chat with your friends for 1,000 times, 100 times, maybe you look for other things to do. What could it be? What could it be? What could come to mind? If all your needs are met, you have all the food to eat, the cost of living is low. Food is delivered to you from a cattle farming center, completely automated center. Everything is everything is delivered to your doorstep. Food is delivered. Healthcare is delivered. Robots are handling things. And could it be that people become so lazy, or it becomes so dystopian, and we are just strolling on the street, just walking around? I saw on a video somewhere, it said that before we were in the wild running after animals and hunting down animals to eat. And by way of life, we are forced to use our body physically to get things done. But as things become automated and become easier, we are having to get a gym subscription to run it on a treadmill so that we can lose weight and keep fit. It would need to be like a constant effort to get into the situation of strain, to actually put ourselves in a situation that we have to use the parts that have been automated. Go for a walk, choose to kill your own animal and eat, choose to plant your own garden at home, those are kind of things that you just choose to. When your housekeeper is a robot and your teacher is a robot and is teaching you all the processes, when your doctor is a robot, your advisor is a robot, I wouldn't recommend. Your partner should not be a robot. Find a human being as a partner. Your children are not robots. Find a wife and have children that are human beings, not some kind of hybrid of human and AI. But you have companions, friends that could be robots. You want to have a chat and they sit next to you and just talk to you. You want them to tell you a story or to tell you a joke or to dance for you. You let them dance. Could that be the future of things? Or could it be that we will set up a new challenge for ourselves and try to go to other planets? Elon Musk is trying to go to Mars. and create a colony in Mars. Maybe that's a challenge, and it may get us out of our boredom. Could it be that before we reach such perfection, where all our needs are met, maybe you're looking for a way to clean up the environment, the effects of all the trash that we've been dumping into the ocean, and all the oil spillage and the damage to the ozone layer and stuff. You automate some labor, just humanoid robots that have been automated to get into landfills and clean them up, tidy stuff up, create new residential areas in such places and let people live. Would such things be allowed to move as smoothly as I'm saying it? Or would there be some malicious intent in the heart of a person somewhere that would turn those robots against human beings? If our entire food system and agriculture system and transportation has been automated, would there be someone out there who is using it to damage others? Have you watched an anime? It's called JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So there is a guy, he has, I think it's his will, he has a way of projecting a spirit out of him, and it punches really quickly. So if he wants to grab a cup of coffee somewhere and drink it, he can just it's called a stand. It comes out, he grabs a cup of coffee, brings it to him, and he can drink it. If he needs to fight someone, he can pull out his stand, it kind of comes out of his body and does the fighting for him. Imagine if you have a daughter who is going home from school and you have a robot that is serving, it's just walking around, and its job is to defend your daughter. And there is a bully somewhere who may have hacked her own robot and lets it do something that is really not nice. It lets it, start causing issues. Now your robot has to defend your daughter against the other lady's robot. Some kind of situation that we haven't really seen much. A robot fighting another robot to save the life of her little human. We kind of have problems that we did not really consider we would have in the past. So these kind of situations are coming up and they're causing issues all around. For example, in the future, you're having a self-driving car, some that may not have been maintained properly and it's breaking down in the middle of the street, or some that went rogue and it's driving on high speed, or some kind of person who thought that I'm so tired of living in this safe environment, I want to feel speed, I want to feel the speed 180 miles per hour, I want to feel the wind in my air, and he programs his car to go over the speed limit. Now you have policemen going after him and there's a high-speed chase. Now you have a problem that didn't really exist before. These kind of issues may come up. So if we automate a lot of things, who would our president be? Will it be that we would have a smart president on the throne leading the country? Can we trust our political decisions to a robot? Would it be that it's pre-programmed and pre-trained on the ways of evil and it prevents people from buying and selling because it thinks that anyone who doesn't get a certain mark, anyone who doesn't follow the rules should not be allowed to buy or sell because they are like weeds to the environment? Could that be the AI's conclusion? If you read the Bible, you would see that that's kind of the conclusion that would come in the future. Things will get progressively better and better, and there will come a time that we would have AI that can make decisions, robots, humanoids that can walk around and do stuff, and one will be put in power. It will be made in the image of another human being. So with the same face, looking the same, maybe with similar hair, similar length of arm, similar length of legs and stuff, it will look like the human that it's been made after. This robot will be able to make decisions and it will be able to speak. That part, with this couple of sentences I've said, I've kind of digressed from what we have been talking about. The first section I've been talking about has been speculations, but this part is like a prophecy that was made thousands of years ago, and it predicts our end with AI, with robotics. If you need to learn more about this area, you can read the book of Revelations from the Bible. If you need to learn more about it, you can read the book of Enoch. I think I'll put the links of the book of Revelations and the book of Enoch in the sections in the caption of this video. But it seems there will come a time of ease where things are greatly automated. People may not entirely follow the laws that will be set, because some of them will be entirely against the natural way of things. It will be against some level of freedom. Do not be too surprised where the idea to take away some freedom of people will be from, but it will happen according to prophecy. Some of these things are not my, thoughts. They're not my guess. It's like a written prophecy. If you followed prophecy written, you may come to be convinced that some of them really come to pass. It's just a matter of time. Some people choose to assume and think, oh, it will happen this year or it will happen next year. I do not know the time. And not many people know the time. We do not know the time. But we can see signs. It becomes progressively closer and closer. And you can see the signs and guess and say, maybe it may happen soon, but we don't know yet. But why don't we prepare instead of just folding our arms and waiting for things to happen? Robots become really intelligent, and they would be able to do things at a really high speed. Some people's rights may be infringed upon, and for those who fight back, they will not be allowed to travel much or buy or sell as a means of punishment to get everybody in line. Imagine if you're trying to create a society where things are peaceful, but there are a group of people who really fight against you and they don't want to change from their way of thinking. The logical thing in the mind of the AI and the human beings who work with it would be to fight against these people. Deploy maybe these police humanoids to fight against those that resist our government, for example. I would recommend that those who are in AI, who are in artificial intelligence studies, should build countermeasures. If there are robot police walking around enforcing judgment, enforcing the law and people, it would be nice for the civilians also to build something for their own. We would not allow just one company or the government to monopolize the production of humanoid robots. If you cannot buy and sell, for example, because you do not follow the laws, why not create your own farm, automated farm in the backyard? You have a large farm and you're 2 people in your family, but you have 1,000 robots working outside, continuously planting section by section, year after year, and you have a constant supply of food. The earth doesn't run dry and the sun doesn't run dry. Well, the earth is not running dry anytime soon, per se. The sun will continue to give its light, per se. Unless the government tries to release drones to cover up the sky above your farm. A thought just crossed my mind. In the case where the sun is darkened and there is no sunlight, we need sunlight. Could it be that we could build lights that can release UV light, and then plants can use it? Does that let plants grow? Can you be in complete darkness? Let's say every day is a night, pitch darkness. Can we continue some kind of farming, automated farming that runs in darkness with some electric powered light? And where would you get electricity if there is no sunlight? But that's on the side. I digress. Because there will be situations where those who resist these authorities would be fought against. Their voices will try to be silenced by preventing them from actually going out to buy from others. Because the currency that will be used may not be paper money. It may be some kind of cryptocurrency, which you would need some kind of ID to subscribe to get an account for, and with that account you would use to transact. So without following their laws, you may not get an ID. Without getting the ID, you cannot buy or sell from other people because no other currency may be accepted. It's more like we are heading toward peace, but something will happen that will cause it to go down, but only for a short time. That has been a long one. We've chatted. If you have any questions, you may put it in the comment section. I'd like to see what you guys have in mind. Was this thought in line with what you have in mind, what you had in mind? Was this something you would have considered? What do you think of the future? And I haven't even thought about timing. How many years will it take for these things to happen? Maybe as long as we can automate things, as fast as we can automate things, maybe that's how long it will take, which I do not know. All right, see you guys on the next video.